kill the ram. The word for kill here, shachat, is a general word which can be translated as kill. But the word for slaughter, or translating it as slaughter, would be a much better word. They don't shoot the thing with an arrow, and they don't beat it to death with a bat. Instead, they cut the animal so that it bleeds out into a basin. And this is what should come to mind with each and every one of these sacrifices that we see in this chapter and the many sacrifices which are ahead of us. Verse 20 continues, "And take some of its blood and put it on the tip of the right ear of Aaron, on the tip of the right ear of his sons, and on the thumb of their right hand, and on the big toe of their right foot." As odd as this may seem at first, a bit of explanation, and everyone who doesn't understand what's going on should have their aha moment. The application of the blood to the priests is the crowning moment of this entire process. It is symbolic of the complete dedication of the priest's life to the service of the Lord. The returning of the blood to these men signifies their acceptance as ministers and the granting of authority as such. The blood symbolizes life. The shed blood thus symbolizes death. They symbolically die to self and henceforward are to live for God. That each point of application is on the right side has meaning in and of itself. Biblically, the right side is the side of strength, honor, and blessing, authority, judgment, as in salvation judgment, wisdom, cleansing, and the like. Applying the blood to the right includes, in some measure, each and every one of these connotations. First, blood is applied to the tenuk, or lobe of the ear. This signifies obedience in the sense of spiritual hearing. They were to heed the divine voice which would speak to them either through the law or through God's prophets. Their lives were to be consecrated to this hearing of the word in the sense of applying it to their lives. Following this, it was to be applied to the bohen, or thumb of the right hand. This word comes from a root which means thick. Therefore, it is the thick part of the hand and thus the thumb. The finger symbolizes human activity. Here, the thumb represents the whole hand. Their hands, meaning their spiritual activities, were to be set apart to God, to holiness, and to only that which was sanctified. They were to be ministers ready to not only hear the divine voice, but to respond to it through daily activity. Finally, the blood was to be applied to the bohen, or big toe of their right foot. It is the same word as thumb. As the big toe is the thick appendage, it received the application of blood as representative of the entire foot. This symbolized that the priests were to walk only in paths of holiness, directing their steps towards God in the race that was set before them. This verse, with the three principal points of application, is explained by Paul in many, many different verses of the New Testament, but it is well summed up in Colossians chapter 1. Listen, and you'll see exactly what's being done to Aaron and his sons. He says in Colossians 1, 9 through 12, For this reason we also, since the day we heard it, do not cease to pray for you, and to ask that you may be filled with the knowledge of him, of his will, in all wisdom and spiritual understanding, the ear, that you may walk worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing to him, the toe, being fruitful in every good work, the thumb, and increasing in the knowledge of God, strengthened with all might according to his glorious power, for all patience and long-suffering with joy, giving thanks to the Father who has qualified us, remember they're being qualified as ministers, being qualified us to be partakers of the inheritance of the saints in light. In the application of the blood to these three extremities, there is the sense that their entire lives were enclosed in the service of God. From the head to the toe, and from the right hand to their foot, their lives were thus sanctified as acceptable ministers. However, there is the truth that even with this application, they still could not hear, they could not understand, and they could not serve or walk in a truly proper manner. Further, as this blood actually did nothing but symbolize something else, it only looked forward in type and shadow. As Aaron only pictures the true high priest, Christ, then he and his sons were only a shadow of the one who literally fulfilled these ancient images. The history of the Aaronic priesthood is one filled with fallible men who often made disastrous decisions. Their being set apart for the service of God was only an anticipatory look towards Christ, who would come as the more excellent priest with a much more excellent ministry, which is established on much, much better promises. Verse 20 continues, and sprinkled the blood all around the altar. As the slaying of this ram signifies the receiving of authority to serve, the splashing of the blood around the altar signifies the acceptance of them for this purpose. There's a duality to the application of the blood, first to them, and then the remainder of it to be splashed on the altar. Verse 21, and you shall take some of the blood that is...